Okay guys, welcome back. And what I'm doing right now on this tank is I'm putting the fittings on that I need and capping the ones that I don't need. Obviously there used to be a motor and a pump up here, and the pump would go right into the top of the tank here. So I just put a 1/2 inch male plug in here to plug that off, because obviously we don't want air coming out of there anymore. And what I'm doing is, so basically I'm going to show you how I have this so far in the back building. I haven't really started on it much yet back there. It's going to be coming real soon. But anyways, I have an air line going back there in the wall currently. And what it's going to do is it's going to come out of the wall into a rubber hose that's going to go into the filler neck of the gas pump handle, which, let me show you that. I've already torn that gas handle apart. I did that off camera because I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, and I didn't want to waste a bunch of time videoing it. But anyways, so what I did was I tore this handle completely apart and was able to get a hose to go through it. So when this is hanging on the pump, you're not even going to see that yellow hose. And then this yellow hose down here fits inside of a 3/4 inch radiator hose. So we're going to take this 3/4 inch radiator hose and sleeve over that yellow hose, so it's going to look a lot like the original black hose that comes on those pumps. And then this will get mounted to the side of the pump, and that hose is going to go up and into here, so you'll never see the yellow hose at all. And then this is the part of the hanger that nozzle is going to go into, and once it goes into there, like I said, you're never going to see that rubber hose. So that's going to take care of that. Let's go to the back bay here. I don't have the lights on back there, but we can at least get a look here of what I have so far. When I built this mixing room here, I ran a copper line out here. So I have a copper line currently right here, okay? And this tank is going to sit right in this area. So basically, it's going to come out of the wall here, through that handle, through the rubber hose, and then it's going to go into the tank, okay? And then there's a port on the top of the tank, and a hose is going to come out the back side of the pump, into the wall, into another copper line that I'm going to run up and over. It's going to go into that back room there, because there's going to be tire machines back there and a sandblasting cabinet. So those need air. They're going to draw out of this 60-gallon tank. This line right here is coming from 2 80-gallon tanks, which are in the front building, that are going to fill this tank. So I'll be drawing air out of this tank. Those tanks will be refilling this tank as I draw air from this tank. Then I'm going to run a line that's, like I said, the line's going to go into that back room, and then I'm going to drop it down, and there's going to be a wall built right over here somewhere. And I'm going to drop one air line into that wall right there, just to have an air hose over here, which most of my tools are battery operated anymore, but I want to have one air line in that area just in case I need it, or to blow cars off, dust out, stuff like that. So I want to have one air line over there. And then, like I said, there's going to be the big sandblasting cabinet, tire machine, tire balancer, all that stuff back in that back room there. So the line coming that is currently in that wall is going to make its way to this fitting, okay? And that's what's going to fill this tank. And then this is going to be the back, okay? Coming out of this is going to be another hose that's going to go to the new line I'm going to put into the wall, which is going to feed all the equipment. So that's essentially the back, and this is going to be the front. So basically, I reversed the tank. So basically, originally, it came from this way, and it went into a pressure relief valve here, and you know, from the pump and everything. But now we're going to use this to draw the air out of. And what I plan on doing, spend a lot of thought here, because obviously I'm doing something that's not normal. So these pieces of sheet metal I had cut, I'm going to use these 1/2 inch angle iron pieces right here for the corners, so that it gives it kind of like a dip in on the 4 corners to kind of give it a little bit of character. So basically on the side, when this whole piece of sheet metal is on the side here, let me grab my tripod. Okay, so basically this whole side is going to be a solid piece of sheet metal, and then there's going to be angle iron on the corners. And that rubber hose is going to get hose clamped to this barbed fitting. But if that line were ever to break, I need to get back in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a flat access plate out of the same 16 gauge material. Okay, I'm gonna cut a hole out, then I'll take another piece of 16 gauge steel, make a square hole bigger, and we'll self-tapping screw it right to the piece of sheet metal. And then when I paint the cabinet, I'm probably just gonna paint over those screw heads to kind of just blend it in. And basically it's just gonna be an access panel so that if I ever need to get back in here and access this, I can do that. Same thing with up here, which will be on the back side of the pump. I'm gonna make an access panel here as well so that I can get to that fitting if I ever need to. So basically what I'm doing is making this 100% able to be serviced if that rubber hose were to ever blow on me. So now what I'm gonna do off camera is I'm gonna go ahead and hook up a drain system. I have a bunch of parts here. I went to Home Depot early this morning and grabbed them. I have some brass parts. I wanted to run all brass fittings so that they don't rust in the future, but unfortunately, they didn't have any 3/8 brass pipe that was more than like 2 or 3 inch long nipples. And I don't want to put like 5 of them together. So I'm using 2 of these galvanized, which I know over time they will rust. But once again, I'm going to have this accessible. This can always be changed out if I need to get to it. So I'm going to run 2 of these. And so then I went to get a female connector to connect these two to make it long enough. And they didn't have it in galvanized. So I just got a steel, a black pipe one, which I'm fine with, whatever. These rust in the future, I'll deal with it, I'll change them. So basically I'm gonna take these 2 lines, put the adapter between them, connect them together. I have a brass 90 that's gonna come out of the bottom of the tank, which I'll show you this once I get it hooked up. And then after this second nipple, we're gonna put on this brass valve, okay? And then we're gonna put on a street 90 coming off the valve, and then a 3-inch nipple, which is gonna go straight down to the floor. I'm gonna put a floor drain in. We're putting drainage in back there, so I'm gonna run a 2-inch pipe or 1.5 inch drain pipe under the concrete behind where this air compressor, air holding tank slash look-alike gas pump is gonna sit. And this valve, when you open it, it's going to go through that street 90, that nipple. It's going to go right into the ground, right into the drain, and right out of the building. So that'll be nice. And it's actually going into a holding tank outside, or a septic tank outside, I'm sorry. So everything's going to be done properly. So when you go to drain this, because it's going to collect moisture, it'll drain out into there and go outside. So that'll be really nice to not have to have a puddle of water on the floor when I'm doing that. So these are all done up here and tightened. I used Teflon tape. I've actually been using this. I like this stuff a little bit better. This is called Blue Monster. It's a thicker quality tape and it's a lot more durable in my opinion, and it just seems to seal better. I do like to use that liquid Teflon quite a bit, but for this, I'm just using this. I think it'll be just fine. So basically, I was gonna fill this with air and pressure test it, but I'm not going to because I'm pretty confident these pipe fittings with the Teflon tape on them and everything are not gonna leak. But I'm gonna have access panels, so if it does, I hear a hissing sound, I can just take the access panel off and look at it at that point. Because in order for me to fill this with air, I'm gonna have to put a hose on here temporarily and then clamp that off and then put a fitting up here so that I can fill it. And I just don't feel like doing all that right now. So, all right, I'm gonna lay this down, get that bottom drain on, and then I'll come back, show you what the drain looks like. Because once again, the drain's gonna exit out the back of the tank and go into the floor. And then also, I wanna light up the display. I had a vinyl decal made that looks like the gas pump display. So I'm gonna have to, this being the front, this piece of sheet metal here, I'm gonna have to cut a pretty big square out, okay? And then I'm gonna recess that square back, probably about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. And then that piece of sheet metal is gonna be, I'm gonna use that same piece of sheet metal that I cut out up here, laying it back 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and I'm gonna use that to stick my decal to, okay? And then I'm gonna have to make some sort of a flange that's gonna hold the piece of plexi that's gonna cover that up. And that's basically gonna create like a 3/4 inch space between the front face and where the face of the gauges are, or dials, whatever they were back then. Then I want to light it. So I'm going to take this cabinet light here and mount it inside on the top, and it's going to shine down the face of that vinyl so it lights up. And then also I have the globe, the light for the globe and everything that's going to go up here. I know it might be a little bit hard to envision. Hopefully my videos, you guys watch them and you'll see exactly how I'm going to do this stuff. I have never done anything like this before as far as creating a 60-gallon air tank into a gas pump. But I thought it'd be something cool, something different. Yeah, I'm probably going to spend $500 doing this, which is a bit of money, you know, but it's a cool way, in my opinion, to hide this thing other than putting it in a closet and building a closet and taking up more floor space out there. So I just thought it would be just something neat. And the globe's going to plug in with that. So those two are going to, I'll probably take that wire and the globe wire and cut them and splice them so that there's only one wire coming out of here. And when I wire up back there, I'll make sure I put a plug behind here and it'll plug right into the wall. It'll be set to go. It'll light up. I'll put it on a switch so I can just hit the switch when I want to light up the globe and the front face of it. Like I said, it's probably going to cost me $500. The globe was fairly costly. The sheet metal was a couple $100. And all the other little trinkets and parts were cheap. Like the gas pump handle, that's just a random handle. I bought it for 25 bucks when I was buying some signs and other stuff from a guy. I offered him 25 bucks for it with a bundle of other stuff, and he said, sure. So that will go with it. The hose I had laying around. So basically the most expensive stuff was the sheet metal, the globe. I already have the white paint. I did buy a quart of base coat green off of eBay. I think it was like 60 bucks for that. So I had that. So basically I have just about everything. I'm waiting on a couple more parts to come. But for $500, I think it's gonna be pretty damn cool. And it's a usable part. It's not just a regular gas pump sitting there. And if you go buy original gas pumps that are restored, you're going to spend $3 to $5 grand for one, or you're going to buy a beat up one for $2 grand and have to restore it still. So I think in the end, yeah, it's not real, but I'm not using any real parts to put on it. So I'm not wasting like a real globe, which it wouldn't really be a waste if I had an original globe and put it on there, because it's not like I'm going to damage it. But like all the other chrome parts and stuff, I'm just buying remade stuff because I'm not going to go on eBay and buy an original one and possibly take that from somebody that can actually use it on a real pump where it's intended for. And that's why I'm just using reproduction stuff, because I don't want to waste a good part on something that's not real. So, all right, let me get this drain in, and then I'll come back and show you how I hook that up. By the way, I'm working today with the garage door open. I would love to have it open, but you know, I live in Ohio and it's either 0 or 100. And of course, today it's like 91 degrees currently. So it's, believe it or not, a little bit cooler in here with the door shut. I don't know how long it's gonna last, especially once I start welding, but hopefully it'll last for a little bit. I guess I can always get a fan out if I need to. Okay, so I put the 90 on the bottom of the tank, and then these two connectors. I went to go put this 90 on and the valve, and I can't put that on right now because right now this is about flush with the leg of the compressor. So if I put this on here and the valve, it's gonna be sitting on that, so I'll do that at a later time. Plus, when the sheet metal comes down to the floor, I'm gonna leave it up about a ½ inch from the floor, because I don't want the sheet metal to be dragging on the concrete, nor do I want the weight of it sitting on the sheet metal. I want it to sit on these 3 original legs. So now that this is done, I can get this stood up and start figuring out how I'm gonna get the sheet metal done. So let me get it stood up and we'll go move on from there. Okay, since I am going to be building a base, I don't want to keep the sheet metal up too high right now because clearly we're going to have a base underneath it. So I have paint sticks here and I checked them and they all seem to be the same thickness. So we're just going to go 1 paint stick thickness high. Okay, sorry, keep getting interrupted. So what I did was, this metal has an oil on it, so I'm not concerned with painting the inside of this, because by the time this thing rusts out, it's probably never going to rust out, and if it does, I'll be dead. But anyways, no, it should never rust out. It's been oiled to keep from rusting. But anyways, I can already tell that I'm gonna need to cut this back some. Well, maybe not on this side, but on this side, we might have to shift this thing a little bit to the right so that this fitting will clear, because this is the tightest fitting 90 I could find. So obviously you can see that's real close to hitting right there. So I'm gonna favor this side and probably cut off of this side, and probably won't have to cut off of this side. I want to save as much of this bracket as possible because I want to weld a piece of angle iron from this to that to hold it together. And then the same thing on the bottom here, we'll have to take a piece of angle iron from like the leg and go over to the sheet metal to hold everything square. So basically what I'm going to do now is take this piece of 1/2 inch angle iron. Let's just tack this first side right here, these two sides together, just to kind of hold them square. And then we can kind of figure out how far that way we need to shift it, and then we can tack on these two. Basically, all I want to do right now is tack this all on. Nothing too permanent because I need to square it up and everything like that. I want to make sure everything's square. I don't have my mask on right now, my welding mask. I'm going to close my eyes just to throw a quick tack on it. I'm not going crazy with it. But this is 1/8 inch steel, so it's plenty thick enough. I'm sorry, 16 gauge steel, so it's plenty thick enough. That should last a long, long time. I'm sure it'll last longer than me. But anyways, this angle iron is also going to bump it over a little bit more. So that's going to help. So let me grab another paint stick. Not worried about the top being perfectly aligned as I am the bottom, because clearly the bottom is what matters. The top I'm going to end up cutting anyways. But let's hook up a ground here. We'll just throw a couple little tacks to kind of hold this. And we can jump over to the other side right here and put a couple tacks on to hold it. And then it'll just be enough tacks to where we can still take this thing and square it up. And I might actually have to run out and get a square because I just have triangle shaped squares. You know what? I think I do have a regular sheet metal square, because I'm just going to take a square and go down both sides to square it up. This is going to be a little hard on my own here, but we will get it. One way or another, we'll get it. Let me do this piece first, because I have the ground wire hooked up to it. And I could clamp it too if I need to. Might be a little difficult clamping it, but I'm sure I can figure out something. I'm going to take this L channel and put it behind the piece of sheet metal, I think. Like I said, I'm just going to close my eyes. Welder's not set right. Oh, somebody moved all the dials down to 0. Awesome. That could be why. You know, I'm actually going to look on my chart here on the welder, and it tells you what numbers to set it close. It gives you a real close estimate for 16 gauge here. So we'll look on here. We're running what wire size am I running? I forget what wire size this is. I think it's not. It might. Oh, 30. I'm running 30. Okay, so we're going to go here. It's 24, 20, 16 gauge right here. 030, 16 gauge. They're saying wire speed 135, voltage 16. So 135 on the wire. And voltage 16, which I was at 15.9. I just moved it up to 15.9. So let's try that and see if we get a little bit closer here. I'm sure it's probably not exactly right, but Actually, doesn't sound too bad. And yes, I am closing my eyes. I have burnt eyelids. Probably just grab my helmet here in a second. Now the good thing about this sheet metal is I had a cut at the shop on their shear. So it's going to be a pretty damn straight cut. Might not be perfect, but it's going to be real close. Okay, I'm happy with that, just being lightly tacked on there. Take this piece over here and do the exact same thing. This thing's gonna be heavy. Okay, so now we have those two tacked. We can move on to this side. Might have to cut the feet down a little bit. Maybe not. Tough to say. Boy, it's going to be close on this side. Real close. Might have to cut that foot down a little bit. I mean, this is all trial and error here. I don't know, just winging it pretty much. But anyways, we can cut some of this foot off because this plate goes all the way back to there. So if we got to chop this right here, we can. We're not bolting it to the floor. Still going to have plenty of stability. I might just have to figure out a way to bolt the piece of wood to it. But I'm not too worried about that because the bottom of this sheet metal is all going to be, there's not going to be a bottom to this. So I'll be able to reach underneath with my hands and put bolts in or whatever I need to do with that. Let me tack on this piece of angle iron here, and then we'll have to grab another piece of sheet metal and see where it's going to line up. So let me get this one on and then I'll come back. Okay, that one's tacked on. By looking down at it, because this is hitting this fitting over here. Looking to kind of see how square it is right now without using a square, and it doesn't look too bad to me. Looks pretty good. So basically this is going to look pretty close to a gas pump, other than this is going to be square, and a gas pump's usually rectangular. It's not as deep as it is wide. But let me grab this other sheet metal here and a couple more paint sticks. Kind of hold it up here and see what it looks like. And you can see right there, it's about what I'm going to have to take off of it. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to take off just the right amount, because I can go, before I put the back piece on, I can go in on the inside and tack that leg to that piece of sheet metal to hold it in place on the one side. So let me go grab a marker, we'll mark that and get that cut. And I'm kind of jammed in the corner in the shop over here to the one side because I have the 59 way over there, and I don't want any welding sparks to get anywhere near that car. So I really don't feel like fixing the paint because I got welding splatter on the paint. This is where that next unit, next part of the shop is really going to pay off. To be able to move stuff and not have it in my work area. I'm also going to have to take some off the top here too. And it looks like it's only going to be about a 1/4 inch or so. Now I marked the bottom, but I marked it on the outside of the sheet metal, so when I cut it, I got to go back farther. Because if I cut it on that line, it's clearly not going to be in enough. I think I'm just about all the way through it. Okay, that's cut. And I'm going to do this off camera. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit off that bracket on this side. Okay, I took a 1/4 inch off of there, plus you saw me what I took off the leg. Let's see how that piece of sheet metal fits against there now. My goal is I don't want to attach this box to the tank itself anywhere. Reason being, if I start taking this and coming over here and welding to this tank, I could potentially be weakening the tank. And I don't want to do that. It's going to hold 160 pounds of air. I don't want any weakness that could possibly explode or something like that. So the only parts I'm going to attach this to is going to be the base, the feet, and this top plate. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to do any welding to the tank itself. And that should keep the tank integrity the way it should be and not have to worry about it weakening. Actually, I think we're pretty good there. We'll get this tacked on and we can start seeing what it looks like. Long way to go. And we might have to try to scoot this thing forward a little bit too, because we need to do that face plate. Right now it's about 3/8 away from the tank, and I want it to be at least a 1/2 inch, 3/4. It's gonna be tight. I measured this tank was still in my shed, and I measured everything, kind of just eyeballed it while it was sitting in the shed. So, gotta kind of get it all figured out. Now I'm sure I'm going to get comments saying that this edge right here, welding to that, it's not going to be strong enough. I'm not leaving a gap. You can't see it on camera, but this piece of 16 gauge steel is back about a 32nd from the edge of this angle iron. So that will get filled in with a bead of weld, and then when I grind it flush, it'll still have that weld in there in the corner to hold it, because I have that little space right there for the weld to go. So basically, if you take the two pieces of angle iron And rather having them perfectly together, it slid back just enough to get a little bit of a bead of weld in there. And we're not building a car here. We're not building a car frame to where we need to have this super structural thing where it's gonna need to withstand all this. And we don't have to worry about that. I'm probably gonna fully weld it though, so that it'll probably never go anywhere. So now we have that tacked on. Next step is, I can already tell the back leg's gonna have to get cut. And I am gonna probably wanna move it forward a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack on the 2 angle irons on the back side. This is kind of hard to video and show you, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the 2 angle irons welded on the back, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I went ahead and cut that back leg off, and I cut a notch in the bottom of this panel for the back here for the drain to go through. So I went and grabbed my framing square. You can kind of hold it up here. So clearly we can tell we're crooked here. So we need to straighten that out. Too much. That looks good there. So now that I have this side square, in here I ground the paint off, and I'm gonna go in there and weld that up, because I'm not gonna, this I can get to afterwards, but I also need to weld that foot down there to the inside of the sheet metal. I'm gonna do that off camera and then I'll come back. Okay, we're welded up here completely, and the leg is welded underneath. So now we can see, we can get this back piece fitted, and then square it up the rest of the way. And right now we have about 1 inch between the tank and this front plate, which should work out perfectly, so that we'll be able to recess that face in enough to where we'll be able to light it up. Okay, I'll get this tacked up off camera, and we'll come back and figure out what we're going to do next. All right, the back is welded on, tacked on. Now let's check ourselves for squareness. I'll tell you what, that's pretty darn good. I'm happy with that. So it squared itself up pretty good. I might have to make that notch down here a little bit bigger for the drain, but I'm okay with that. And I'm probably going to have to cut a slice into the metal here, like a 1/4 inch channel, or cut through it, so I can weld to that back leg. And then up here, I'm going to end up welding a piece of angle iron on here, and then over to the side wall there. So I'm going to cut a piece of angle iron. I have a piece of 3/4 inch angle iron here, which I'm going to cut a piece so I can weld it to the edge of the tank and then to the side of this cabinet, or side of the metal, and then that'll hold this top part. Okay, so that angle iron is welded in straight along the base, and then some tacks along the wall there. I'll probably shoot some spray paint on what I can up there. So basically now we have the box pretty much installed. I need to put a weld on that leg, and then I'm gonna have to figure out this one down here, which it's kind of far away from. So I might have to jack it up and do it from underneath. So let me cut that slot in the back, and then I'll show you what I was talking about. Basically what I do is I just cut out a little slot there. So now I can weld through that slot and hit the leg itself. So I'll get that welded up. Okay, that's all welded in the back. Now I want to get these paint sticks out from underneath here. Well, it feels pretty damn sturdy, and it's only just begun to be welded, so one spot I need to tack still. Needs a better tack up here. That's no big deal. I'll probably throw a tack up there afterwards. So now I have a piece of 24 by 24 16 gauge for the top. I don't know if it's big enough. I think it is. Yep, it's big enough. So I need to determine now if I'm going to do a slope, a little bit of a slope to it. I think I want to. We're not talking a lot here, just a little bit. But I think that's all I'm going to do on this tonight. I'm going to kind of think about it, look at some more pictures, and figure out how I want to do the top next. And then we can get the top welded on. I'll probably go in there and spray paint what I can in there, the welds and stuff, just to protect those a little bit. But I'll figure out how I want to do the top next. We'll get that tacked on, and then we can cut the hole out for the front face, get that where we want it and tacked in. Then I have to cut these out. Before I put the top on, actually, I have to cut out where my access plate's going to be for here. And I need one back here, right here, so that I can reach that fitting in there. So I need to do those two before I go any farther with the top. So, all right, guys, that's going to end this video. Not much really going on, just kind of making a box right now, but I think it's going to look pretty cool, especially with this being recessed in like this. I think that's going to give it a little bit of character. And I know, yes, there's a little bit of surface rust and stuff on the middle. I'm not worried about it. It's welding just fine. It's not going to be an issue. It's not a car. We're not putting a bunch of weight on it or anything like that. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. If this is interesting to you, please let me know so I know to keep making stuff like this or not. So if you can leave a comment, that would be awesome to let me know if this is like some things you guys would like me to do in the future and see more of it. Other than that, please like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.